can't have any more babies. That is huge for me. And it might not seem like a big deal to a lot of people. And I know that I am so incredibly blessed to have my daughter. But the fact that the opportunity of having another kid got ripped away from me, it like took part of my womanhood. You know what I mean? And there's nothing that I could do about it. And it sucks. My name is Amanda. I'm 30 years old. I'm from Northern California. And 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer that had spread to my lymph nodes. And then during my 6 month scan, it had spread to my abdomen. I'm a mama to a 4-year-old girl. She was 2 when I got my diagnosis. So that is a big part of my life. Right now, I'm a stay at home mom, currently on disability from the cancer treatments that I received. My first symptoms that I had been experiencing were really heavy periods and severe cramping. And I thought that it was just, bad periods. I was going to like a Planned Parenthood to get on birth controls, basically trying to like mask those symptoms, thinking, oh, I'm just one of those girls that have really bad periods, because that's just what I was being told. Basically was I was one of the unlucky ones that suffer really bad PMS. So I was dealing with really bad periods, really bad PMS symptoms as well. And then and then then I started bleeding irregularly. So I was bleeding outside of my periods, and I had started passing large blood clots too that weren't related to being on my menstrual cycle. Um, and I started having severe cramping, almost constant, in my lower abdomen, in my left groin. And then it would go down my left leg, not all the way down to about the top of my knee, it would stop. Um, and then it was hard for me to lift my left leg all the way up. I was like losing mobility in my left leg from the tumor. But yeah, those were my main symptoms, were the severe cramping, abnormal bleeding, and then severe abdominal pain, and I had loss of appetite and fatigue as well, like really bad fatigue. During this whole time, I was in and out of the ER and the walk-in clinics. Something is wrong. I need help. I'm bleeding a lot. This is not a period anymore. Like there is something wrong. I was in and out of the hospital. They were doing tests here and there, diagnosing me with, oh, it's just a bad period. Oh, you've got ovarian cysts. You've got diverticulosis. You've got kidney stones. They literally had diagnosed me with all the things under the book, except for, what was really going on and looking further into it. Um, until the last time that I went to the ER, I got a nurse, and she was like, I'm going to do all the tests. So she ran all the tests. And during my pelvic ultrasound, she said that she sees something there. She's seen a mass. She wasn't sure exactly what it was. Um, it wasn't in her profession to, decide what she was seeing. She wasn't sure. So she was like, I'm going to send you to an urgent, gynecologist. Sent me to a local gynecologist. He was a joke. Said, oh, I think you just have maybe endometriosis and ovarian cysts. Dismissed me. I was bawling when I left his office. I'm like, I need help. I went all the way to Stanford, which is 4 hours away from where I live, to see a gynecologist oncologist, because they didn't have any gynecologist oncologists where I'm at. I had to drive for 4 hours away. I did that. That day, she said, I want to do an exam and a biopsy. During my exam, my pelvic exam, she's like, I can see that you have cancer. She could see it. in my pelvic exam just from visual, like looking inside of me, could see that I had cancer. Um, didn't know the stage yet. She needed to do a biopsy. Admitted me to her hospital that day. I was admitted for 11 days, and they did everything, biopsies. Um, they did a kidney stent for me because the mass was blocking off my kidney. They put a port in so that I could have my treatments done through my port. Um, they did uh, amazing work in Stanford, but it took a long time to get to that point. I was completely beside myself. I had lost my mom at 12 to cancer, to liver, lung, and colon cancer. So I was familiar with cancer. And you don't ever think that it can happen to you. You're like, oh, I'm never going to get cancer. That can't happen to me. So when she came in and said, you have stage 3 cervical cancer that had spread to your lymph nodes and you're inoperable, and I didn't know what to think. I thought that I was getting a death sentence right there. I thought it was done and over with. I didn't know. Stage 3 sounds really bad and it's already spread. That sounds even worse. After that, she said, you're going to have to do treatment. Um, and we're going to come up with a treatment plan here in Stanford and send it down to a local oncologist and radiologist so you can do most of your treatment locally. So they set up, I was set to have 5 chemos, 27 external radiations, and 5 internal radiation brachytherapy sessions. I remember I would have chemo 1 day a week and radiation 5 days a week. So I would go to radiation in the mornings usually, and it would only take radiation itself, I would be there for about 15 minutes. And you just lay on the table and they have this machine that goes around your body and it does radiation to your whatever part of your body that needs it. And then after that, 1 day a week, I would have chemo. And on the chemo day, I would go in and I would have to get, they would give me a bag of hydration, and then they would give you steroids, an anti nausea medication, potassium and magnesium, and then I would get the chemo, and then I would get another bag of hydration because I guess the chemo that I was on was called cisplatin, and it's really hard on your kidneys, so they try to flush it out with a bunch of hydration. And I was usually fine the day of chemo because they give you steroids, they give you kind of medication to make you feel pretty good that day. So those medications would help me feel, you know, somewhat energetic, somewhat of an appetite the day of, and then the very next day is when my body would start to get run down. I would start to feel really exhausted. And then with the radiation on top of it, it I would just get so tired. I was sleeping almost all day, super, super nauseous, having to take nausea medications around the clock. I didn't lose my hair, which I was super, super blessed about. I did have hair thinning, so I did lose a little bit here and there, like in the shower and stuff, like more than usual. But I was very blessed to not lose my hair. But I dealt with nausea and loss of appetite a lot, and having to drink protein drinks and Ensures to stay, somewhat nourished. But it was really hard for me to eat. For the brachytherapy, it was considered outpatient. I would have to drive down. I stayed in Sacramento at the time, and I would go in for brachytherapy. They would access my port. I would have to get a spinal epidural, and they would numb my back and then do a spinal, and that hurt like heck every single time. And then once the epidural would take place, then you lay down and then they put you to sleep. And then they put your legs up in the air on the stirrups, and then they insert these metal rods vaginally, and straight to your cervix. And then the metal rods deliver radiation straight. It's targeted radiation, so it's straight to your cervix. And you lay in that position for several hours while you get the radiation, and then they take the rods out, they wake you up, and then you're in recovery, and then you go home, and then you wait about a day or two, and then you go back and you do it all over again. I had 5 of those treatments in a 2 week time frame. I had a lot of pain, like vaginal pain from the rods being there for several hours. Um, but no, I was just really fatigued, really nauseous, really tired. Same symptoms as the other radiation, except for the spinals. Everything, like my back was killing me from the constant epidurals in the same spot over and over. That was not fun. I finished brachytherapy, and then after that, you get a 3 month PET scan after you finish treatment. They do a 3 month PET scan to see where you're at. Um, I had found out that I was in remission. I was so happy. I was like, yes, I beat this. They were like, you're looking good. We're going to have you come back again in 3 months. I'm like, okay. So at this point, I go in for my 6 month scan. I go in to get my results read. The doctor tells me, you have a reoccurrence. The cancer has came back and it's in your lower abdomen. And I instantly broke down. I instantly just started bawling my eyes out in the office. Like, what are you talking about? It's back. How? Why? How did it? And he said, the where it's at, it looks so here's where my cervix is. And the cancer traveled right above where I had my treatment and was now in my lower abdomen, right above where I had my previous treatment. So it had just crawled up a little bit. And so I was in disbelief. I was bawling my eyes out. And I was like, okay, well, what does this mean? What's next? And he said, treatment again. And I was just getting better. I was just like not getting better, but starting to get a little bit of energy back, starting to feel a little bit normal again. And then here I am. Now I've got to get treatment again. And so I asked, what kind of treatment do I have to have? And 5 more rounds of chemo and 25 more rounds of radiation. I finished that treatment, and right now I'm currently 9 months out of that treatment. I just had my 9 month scan. So you get a 3 month scan, 6 month, 9 month, and I just had my 9 month scan, and I am currently in remission. I can't have any more babies. That is huge for me. And it might not seem like a big deal to a lot of people. And I know that I am so incredibly blessed to have my daughter. But the fact that the opportunity of having another kid got ripped away from me, it like took part of my womanhood, you know what I mean? And there's nothing that I could do about it, and it sucks because I was an only child, and I'm fine obviously, but it sucked having no siblings growing up. And I know what I felt like as a child and how much I wanted a sibling. And I never wanted my daughter to feel that, and be lonely. And I don't know, and I've always wanted 2 babies. That's what I wanted. I wanted 2 babies, and I, wasn't able to. And so that's been a hard adjustment. They asked me if I wanted to freeze eggs, but the timing of it was not great because I was going to be starting treatment immediately. So I would have had to figure something out like that day. And like, you know what I mean? Like, and then went about it. And I was so like distraught about this cancer diagnosis and about I was so sick at the time too. I mean, I was sick. Like I was ill. And so I just couldn't even imagine having to figure out this now too. I didn't do it because the timing to me wasn't there. I was so sick. I was so sick. I mean, I was throwing up all day, every day sometimes. I couldn't get off the couch some days, all day long, stuck on the couch. Um, and to have a 2-year-old running around that does not understand why mommy is sick and why she can't carry me and why she can't play with me was hard. She was so sweet though. She would get her doctor kits and she would try to play doctor and fix mommy, and she was so into helping me and bringing me water, bringing me anything that I needed. But I had that mom guilt of I feel useless. I can't do anything with her. I can't play with her. I can't feed her. I can't do anything. I had to have help with all of it. I had to have help with every single aspect that came with being a mom. And that was hard pill to swallow, not being able to be a parent to your kid because you're so sick. I went through a lot of like medical trauma through this, and I've just seen like how you can't trust everybody like in the medical system and stuff like that. And I was really naive back then thinking that like if you go to the doctors, they're going to help you. I just know that now like you have to advocate for yourself and you have to stick up for yourself. I was not very self advocate of myself back then, and I know that now that I have to be. A lot of women don't know how important it is to get a pap smear, and just something that simple that can save your life. I am like, girl, you have got like I want to spread this awareness. I want everybody to know how important it is to stay up on your feminine health, to have a gynecologist, to go to the doctor, to get your pap smears every 3 years, to get your HPV tests. Um and because I just recently started sharing my story on TikTok, and I didn't realize how many women didn't realize how important it is, you know? And so many women are like, oh my gosh, thank you for telling me this, or thank you for reminding me, or I didn't know this. And I'm like, girl, I didn't either. And I'm learning this and I want to share it with everybody. I want everybody to know the importance because I was stupid and didn't have a gynecologist for a long time, my whole adult life. And then I got pregnant, and you have to have a pap smear when you're pregnant. And that's when I got my first abnormal pap smear. Is when I was pregnant. And then after that, I had to have a gynecologist. And you know what I mean? And it was almost forced to. Um, but before that, I didn't have a gynecologist. I was just going to Planned Parenthood and getting birth control, and wasn't getting pap smears because nobody's got time for that, you know? But I want everybody to know how important it is. When I was pregnant, I had the abnormal pap smear come up, and it came up abnormal for HPV. And then they did a colposcopy while I was pregnant, and everything looked fine from that. They said, well, we can't really do much because you're pregnant, so we'll do another pap once you're not pregnant anymore. So I got a pap immediately when I wasn't pregnant anymore, and it was normal. And so they were like, you're fine for the next 3 years. You don't have to have another pap. And then at that 3 year mark is when all of those symptoms started happening. And then I went to the ER, and all of that happened was at that 3 year mark. And nobody can advocate for your body like you can advocate for your body. And one thing that a doctor said to me that really stuck out to me when I was sick was, I don't know that anything is wrong with you unless you tell me. So unless you tell me something is wrong, I'm going to think you're 100% fine. And that resonated with me something deep. I don't know why, but I'm just like, damn, you know what? Like, you're right. Because unless I tell you what is going on, there is no way for you to know what is going on inside of my body. I'm cramping. I'm having weird vaginal pain, pain with sex. You know what I mean? Things like that are really common too. And doctors aren't going to know that unless you tell them. You've got this, that it's not over, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if I can do it, you can do it, because it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's a cakewalk, because it's hard, but it's so worth it in the end. You feel so empowered. You're a warrior. I wish that I would have documented my story more while it was happening. Um, and like did like a journal of how I was feeling day to day and kind of was able to like keep up that way, but there was no way at the time that I could have. I was just so sick, and the last thing I wanted to do was like write about how I was feeling or like journal it, you know? I just wanted it to go away and to feel better. But I definitely wish that I would have maybe documented it a little bit more and like shared my story a little bit earlier to maybe have helped more people sooner. That's just my biggest thing is if I can help one person, you know, like I feel like my job is done. And I've already like just by sharing my story, there's been so many women reach out to me and thank me and be like, you've helped me. And that makes me feel so good.